Um, I'm obviously, as many of you know, I was on the council for 9.5 years, and I just got reelected. I'm back here. I want to share with you a little bit about what the city attorney was saying now. This issue came up within a few months of me finishing my last term in office. And I had very serious concerns about it. My home, the home I live in, and I'll tell you I don't own it, I rent it, was one of the very first homes affected. I have 3 rows of trees that are 14 feet high. I have zero breeze in my backyard. I have zero view in my backyard. And I will tell you, my wife, I was sitting back there last night, we have lounge chairs, she was just telling me about the number of rats that are going up the tree. So I understand the concern. And I've lived in Doral for 26 years. Of those 26 years, I've lived on a golf course for 20 of them. And understand the views. When I was on the council, when we passed the ordinance on the borderline hedges, at the time that this all was starting, and I was trying to advise my community to, instead of attacking just the plantings, but to focus on the hedge requirement of the ordinance that we had, but they didn't listen to my advice. And at that time, and the city attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, the answer I was given by staff was that a areca palm was not a hedge. And I explained that when I passed the ordinance, and there's something called legislative intent, I didn't know areca palm was not a hedge. To me, a hedge was anything that was a barrier. And that's what the intent of which I passed it. And I remember when we passed that ordinance, it was due to a specific property that we're having problems with. But I could tell you, and it goes to the point that the city attorney is saying, I kept running into walls when I was going to our legal attorney, our city attorney at that time, and I didn't feel comfortable with the answers I was getting. Unfortunately, my time ran out, and I left the council, and I wasn't able to continue to pursue that. Having said that, in defense of my colleagues that have been these 2 years here, I want you all to understand that we represent all of you, but we represent the entire city. And I just finished a campaign, and during my campaign, I gave the same answer to some people, because I'm not going to play politics with you. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to try to help in every way I can. But to say that we cannot go against Trump unless we have legal advice that tells us we can. Because if we do, we're going to get sued. And the one that pays that bill is the entire city, including the people that are sitting here and many others. So we got to try to find legal standing upon which to go on. At this point in time, maybe some things could have been done. Unfortunately, Mr. Espino and his firm was not here before to give us the advice that we're getting now and the council is getting now. But I also want to be very clear that he's proposing some changes to the ordinance that are going forward. They can't go back. Having said that, he's also talking, and I'll say it in lay terms in case you didn't understand it. I apologize, I don't mean to say it, but when he's saying he's not going to mention certain things is because if he puts them on the record today, and we do have to go to court, and I will tell you right now, I have no problem. I'm not intimidated. I know some of you raised the issue of Mr. Trump. I'm not struck by anybody, and I'm not intimidated by anybody. I've taken on, while my service on the council, I've taken on big developers in the past. They don't scare me. I always say my parents left Cuba, so I don't have to live under oppression. So I'm not going to be afraid of anybody here. But I am going to ask, and if I get support from council, I would like beyond, because throughout this whole time, as I was talking to a lot of the residents about this issue, I don't know what's going on with our mics tonight, but they're crazy. One of the things that did come to my mind, and I've already discussed it with the city attorney, is that most of the time, the answer you all have been getting, which I believe to be factual, and it's...
Councilman, I just want to ask you to move a little bit forward.
Further away?
Yeah, because there is a lot of...
Okay. Can you all hear me there? Yes, right? Okay. Until now, most of the issues that we've been dealing with are issues of private property owner with another private property owner, which the city has really very little we could do about that, other than possibly the issue of the silver course, which may have additional rights. But that's something that's still a private matter that doesn't involve the city. That's a private property to private property. Having said that, one of the things that came up in my discussions, and I don't remember if it was I thought of it or the resident thought of it, from my time on serving is property rights in this country and this state are very protected. And if you violate those, you get sued and you got to pay. But I also understand that sometimes rights end where someone else's rights begin. And what I like to ask because until now, our analysis has been always done, like most times analysis is done of this kind, about property, like one private property owner, what's happened. Cool. But this impact is not just impacting a single property or your home. It's impacting the entire city of Doral. It's impacting our property taxes. It's impacting the views we have as we drive down 52nd Street and across from John I. Smith, which you used to see this beautiful golf course, and now it's gone, or it's going away. It will be gone. So what I'd like to be able to do is I'd like to ask our legal counsel, and I'd like to get counsel support to invest beyond the normal legal research. And if we have to allocate $50,000 to it or whatever it may be, to do an in-depth study and to see what case law may exist in this country where the entire city has been impacted like it's happening in Doral. We are a golf community. We're a community of views. Most of it is. I mean, some of it, obviously, like Doral House, has not been affected. And to see if we have rights. I mean, we may or may not. Yeah, I am placing a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Could you please rephrase?
I'll clarify the motion now. So the key is if that possibility exists, and we do have some kind of legal standing. I don't know if it does or doesn't. I'm not an attorney, nor has the research been done. But I think it's worth our time and energy to research that, because we are going to be dramatically impacted as a community. Again, property taxes, views, and so on. So that's where I stand with it. And if we do have legal standing, I give you my word, I will support anything we can do to protect it, as long as we have legal standing.
Councilman, I would like
the motion is, I'd like to place a motion with support from council to allocate a minimum of $50,000 for our city attorney to do an in-depth analysis of property rights as they impact the city as a whole. I'm not talking about individual property rights. I'm talking about what the impact is made to our city, how we as a city have a right to maybe defend ourselves against.
Do we have
attack.
any second to the motion? Okay. Any further discussion?
I have a few comments.
Okay.
Is Councilman?
Oh, you were
After.
I'm done.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you, Councilman. I think that those are appropriate steps to take. There's a few things that I would like to add to that motion, if possible, and maybe we don't need to add it to the motion. City Attorney, you can guide us on that. But you made many comments about bringing back those ordinances that are going to protect for future plantings, as well as how to make our code in a way where it doesn't end on purposes of what we've seen here today, and things that should have maybe been done 2 years ago before this all began, to protect the visual aesthetics of our city, and like Councilman Cabrera said, something that impacts the entire city. So I don't know if you need a motion for that, but I want to see those ordinances come back sooner than later, so that we can address those issues to protect the welfare of our city moving forward. There was another comment that you made that really is of the biggest concern to me, even though obviously what these residents are going through is a very big concern. Councilman Cabrera said something that I've been saying, and I've said to all these residents. We represent a city of 50,000 residents, and I know that this is something that has impacted a big group of residents in our city, but we do need to be conscious of the decisions that we make and how they impact our city as a whole, and what position we put ourselves in when we make certain actions appear. But the safety, life, and welfare and the health of our residents is very important. And there was a comment that you made about there might be some areas that have been identified by the city manager that could affect the safety more so than anything, and the welfare of our residents, like police being able to access certain areas if there's someone who escapes through a golf course, or being able to hide and things like that. And that's of a huge concern to me, especially with children, and being that they're planting around a school and things of that nature. So I would like more clarification on that. And if there is actions that we can take based on the safety, life, and welfare and health of our residents, I want to see that action taken right away.
Do you have any particular part in the motion that you want to add?
That's part of what I want to add to the motion. Is I want to look into specifically those right-of-ways that would be I'm not sure exactly how to explain it. I know, yeah, right, both the scope of work, but that, Mr. Spino, you and I spoke about this before the meeting as well, too. Areas like on 107, that there is no homes, but it's access that the city has, or that the city is able to get in through. It's obviously a little more difficult when you're in a closed community and there's homes for, to be able to get in that way. And again, we go into the property rights issues, which we're going to look into, and I'm glad that we're taking that step. But again, the safety aspect is extremely important. So if we could dig into that, and I hope that I have the support of the council to make sure that that gets put into the motion. I want to see that taken care of as soon as possible. Identify those areas, and if we need to take action, we don't need to wait for a study to be done on rights if they have to do with the safety of our community.
Well, if I might just add to the statement, is exactly the motion will be to have $50,000 to research, but in the case of a specific area in the United States that we have regulations where we have to keep our homes open in case of a fire or something that goes with the safety and the welfare. I don't know how you can rephrase that, Mr. City Attorney, but that would be the main. Okay.
I wanted to add to that, that this actually become a priority and that the $50,000 is actually separate from what you are currently already spending, because I know that over the last few months, you've spent a lot of time on this issue. So I think it's time sensitive, and I think we need to have you provide a periodic report, maybe every, 7 to 10 business days as to where we're at. Or if the manager can include it in his weekly letter to the council or weekly update, I think that's important. And also, I think it's important to include council that's been volunteering. I don't know if it's pro bono or how you're doing, but bounce off as many ideas. And if any of you, including Mr. Levy and so forth, after you've heard many of the comments that have been placed, just tomorrow morning, contact the city attorney or the city manager or anyone. You can contact any one of us, but at the end of the day, they're the ones charged with actually doing it. We as a council can't give direction. Our charter prohibits us from giving day-to-day direction, and we actually have to do it. That's why we're up here today, because we have to give consensus or direction as a group. Anytime I receive the videos that I know Dr. Perini sends to me, regularly, I forward them to code enforcement. I forward them to the city manager for his attention, because I cannot grab code enforcement to go out there. And I think it's going to be very important that one of the recommendations that this council has made is that site plan approvals actually come back to the city council, because at the present time they do not. We approve zoning only, and currently the site plan approvals are done at the administrative level, and we're kind of caught, we're having lost a lot of history here. We don't have Yvonne Soler-McKinley, who was, I believe, the manager that was, this all started under her watch. We don't have the zoning director, who's Nathan Kogan, which a lot of this occurred under his watch. We don't have the building director, Sergio Escunce, I think, who was here, and I know that you, manager, came back for a very short period of time. We don't have the city manager, Mr. Carollo, who was really spending more time at the resort than at City Hall. So,
city attorney.
And we don't have the two city attorneys, Mr. Morales, who's currently now with Miami Beach, the other one, Joe, and John Herron. Unfortunately, we as a council cannot necessarily move when our city attorneys are telling us that we cannot legally act. So this is not a matter of passing the buck. It's time to act. But let's do it. My whole point is it's time sensitive. Okay?
Mr. Mayor, if I can, I'm sorry.
Just a point of clarification, the $50,000 in my book is minimum. I mean, it's just the starting point. If for some reason it requires more, you need to come back to council and ask us, even if we have to have a special meeting for it. And also to go to Councilman Fraga's point, the research on the case law that may exist to protect the city as a whole may take more time than the life, safety, welfare, and health issues. And if that comes up, if we get an answer on that sooner, then we move forward with that. It doesn't have to be all at one time. I would ask the community to be sensitive. to not bombard them, let them do their work, make sure we get a solid answer, not try to piecemeal this, because there's no piecemeal answer to this. I'd like to have a solid response and a formal written opinion.
Okay, I would like to call the question, please.
Councilman Rodriguez may have.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank the residents for being here tonight. I know that, sometimes it's hard to organize such a large group of people, but I know that they're hard and they're really here because this is obviously something that is not just affecting them aesthetically, but it's affecting their quality of life. The poor woman that spoke, that's claustrophobic, and obviously everyone lives here for a reason, whether it's for the schools, whether it's for the parks, the peace and quiet. A lot of these people bought these homes with the understanding or the expectation that their views were never going to be obstructed. And now, on the other side of that, I know, legally that the owner, that the resort does have certain rights to plant things in their property. However, I don't think that the way in which it's been handled has necessarily been the right way because of, the heights of the trees didn't have to be all huge. It could have been shorter, it could have been planted further apart, not so close together. But those are issues that I think, as the mayor and as everybody has indicated, I think the attorney does need to have that buffer for his fee to really get to the bottom of this legally, so that the city and the residents are fighting the fight the way that it needs to be fought. I mean, we are kind of like in the middle of, it's like a divorce, we're the child sort of, the two parents, but I don't want to put the city or the residents in harm's way. And I think that arming ourselves legally is the best course to take. So I support Councilman Cabrera's motion, and I also agree with Councilwoman Fraga's point, which is the life, safety, and the health of our residents is number one. I mean, if your wife is seeing rodents that are going up the tree, I mean, that rodents carry a lot of diseases, and it's just, to me, that's worrisome. That's very worrisome. Okay. It goes beyond the aesthetic of losing your view. I mean, I know that's very unpleasant, and because you want to continue seeing the view, but you also want to have the health, safety, and welfare of your family, so I'm going to support the motion.
Okay. Please, can we call the question?
I may, 1 second again, and, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask and represent the residents of the city, if I didn't ask again for this council to reconsider rescinding the support that was given to the Trump organization and the Miss Universe organization for the $2.5 million.
Mr. City Attorney, I would like you to please explain. This is out of order. We have an amendment we passed in August, and at this point, we would like to call the question.
Mayor and council members, the question is being called. I have motion to allocate a minimum of $50,000 for the city attorney to do an in-depth analysis of property rights in the city, authorizing the primary focus of this analysis to be life, safety, and health of residents. Made by Councilman Cabrera and seconded by Councilwoman Fraga. Councilman Cabrera.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fraga.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rodriguez.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ruiz.
Yes.
Mayor Boria.
Yes.
Mayor, the motion passes unanimously.
Mayor,
Okay.
if I may, just two final comments. First, certainly, Mr. Brooks and Mr. Aragon, I would appreciate being able to continue working with both of you as we continue to move forward on some of these enforcement opportunities that identified and some of the issues we addressed. Secondly, there are currently maintenance standards in the code, whether we strengthen them or not. And so, Mr. Mayor, through you, I would encourage the community to continue to advise City Manager's Office, Code Compliance Office of issues where we have overgrowth or not picking up palm fronds or just a general lack of maintenance of the area. And to Mr. Klaus's comment, it is not their responsibility to maintain those trees. It is the resort's responsibility to maintain those trees. And we want to hear about the fact that they're not being maintained.
Mayor,
Okay.